Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Satchidananda Rupaya Vishvotpattyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Namaha. समस्तजन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. Hari Om, salutations to all. So welcome back after a long break. We are doing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, and in that we saw this Canto 4 has 4 parts. Dharma, which was explained through the prasang of Sati and Daksha and Bhagwan Shiva. Then we have Artha, so that was described through the prasang of Dhruva. Then we have Kama, which was described through the prasang of Raja Prithu. And now we have Moksha, that will come through the prasang of the Puranjana Vyakhyana. So after Raja Prithu, we saw in the 23rd chapter of Canto 4 that Raja Prithu practices, he rules very well, and then he renounces the world, and then he practices austerities and he attains mukti. Then we were on chapter 24. So this chapter 24, we see the lineage of from Prithu's son Vijitashva, and then the Prithu's son Vijitashva became the emperor, and he gave to his younger brothers. So Prithu's sons, he had 4 sons that we saw. So Vijitashva becomes the king, and then to Haryaksha, he gives the eastern quarter, to Dhumrakesha, he gives the southern, and then to Vrikka, he gives the western, and the 4th to Dravina. Now his lineage also it is explained, and we come to this person who is Havirdhana, who is also so through Havirdhana, Barhishad, Gaya, Shukla, Krishna, Satya, Jitavrata, they are born. And Barhishad is the eldest son of this Havirdhana, and he does yajna, a huge yajna, because of which there are these, the Kusha grass has grown pointing in the east direction, so he gets the name also as Prachina Barhi. Now, this Prachin Barhi had 10 sons, and these are called as Prachetas. Now, Prachin Barhi told them to take forward the creation, have more children. So what did these Prachetas do? They go to a lake and they want to please Bhagwan Hari. So when they go to that lake, they find Bhagwan Shiva manifests from that lake along with his retinue. And there Bhagwan Shiva, he spoke to the princess. And what did he ask them? So he said that you are the sons of King Vedishad or Barhishad or Prachin Barhi, all of them mean the same. And he says that I know your purpose. You are here because you want to please Bhagwan Hari and you want to have children. And he says, out of my grace that I have manifested here, may all be well with you now that you have had my darshan. And he says that those are, though he indeed is supremely dear to me, who has directly taken refuge in Lord Vasudeva, who is beyond a manifest and beyond the unmanifest, consisting of the three gunas and the spirit known by the name of Jiva. Now he helps them by singing a glory of Bhagwan Hari. And that glory of Bhagwan Hari, he describes first the glory of the Lord, then his form, and then how to meditate on it. So that's where we are on chapter 24 of this fourth canto. So he begins. So this stuti that Rudra Bhagwan gives, Lord Shiva is singing the stuti of Bhagwan Hari or Vishnu Bhagwan. Many places you will see in our scriptures the Lord. So Hari will sing the glory of Vishnu and Vishnu will sing the glory of Hari, because each of them are the Ishtadevatas of the other. Now, so here it is. First he understands, so the beginning portion of this stuti is the description of Bhagavan, not as a form. That form one comes as the second part. The beginning part of this stuti is where the Lord is described as the Atma. Jitam ta Atma vidhuryastvastaye swastirastu me bhavata radhasa radham sarvasma atmane namaha. So he says here that your glory tends to the blessedness of the foremost amongst the knowers of the self. May it conduce to my blessedness as well. You ever exist as a supremely blissful. Hail to you, the Supreme Spirit, who have assumed all the forms. So as the Atma, the Supreme Lord alone is the truth, and that alone has become this entire universe. So he says, glory be to you. Then he comes to the form, the next aspect as the Supreme Creator, creator of Brahmaji also. So he says, obeisance to him who has a lotus sprung from his navel, the controller of subtle elements of the senses, elements and the senses, to Vasudeva. Now, four aspects he will explain: Vasudeva, Pradyumna, this Aniruddha, and Shankarshana. Like we say, Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. In the individual mind, we say Man, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar, they are the four aspects of the subtle body. Apart from whatever the five senses of knowledge, five senses of action, five pranas, then there's Man, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar, four, Antakarana. So, like that, those are four, and these are the four in the total body, total subtle body. So he says, you are the Vasudeva. Even in Tattvabodh, we say Chittasya Vasudeva. The presiding deity of Chitta is Vasudeva. So he says, you are the one who is a Vasudeva, the first and foremost of the four vyuhas or manifestations of the Lord. And who is this Vasudeva? Ever tranquil, immutable, self-luminous. Then he says, salutations to you, O Sankarshana, the second one who presides over the ego. There it is said Ahankarasya Rudraha in Tattvabodh. Here it is Ahankarasya Sankarshana. So the Devtas names can keep changing, and Devtas possible, the responsibilities also can keep changing, and depends on different cycles of creation also. So don't get confused, Rudra or Sankarshana. It can be both. Anyway, just now we saw Bhagwan only became all the forms. So how does it matter? Now, who is Sankarshana? He is unmanifest and infinite and destroys the universe by fire issuing from his mouth at the time of universal dissolution. And then the third is Pradyumna, from whom comes the highest knowledge of the world and who presides over the intellect. So he is the presiding deity of the Buddhi. Then to Aniruddha, presiding over the mind, controller of the senses. So obeisance to you as the sun god who pervades the universe by his effulgence and is devoid of growth and decay. So that Supreme Lord first is worshipped as the Atma who has become this whole universe, then worshipped as the very source of even Brahmaji, and then who alone becomes this four Asudeva, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and Sankarshana. Then he says, salutations to him who is the door to heaven and the final beatitude and who constantly dwells in a pure heart. Hail to the fire god through whom are accompanied sacrifices performed with the help of four priests. So in any sacrifice, there will be these four, Hota, Adhvaryu, Udgata, and Brahma. Brahma is the one who is the main person who supervises. Hota is the one who actually puts the ahutis. Udgata are the one who they will chant the mantras. So Hota and Adhvaryu, they will do the offerings and ensure that whole thing happens properly as per the vidhi. Then who makes for the continuance of sacrifices? Then salutations to Hari, who as the moon god serves as the food of both the mains and the gods. So when Bhagwan says here in the 15th chapter, Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha, I become the moon and I nourish the entire plant kingdom. Gamavishya cha bhutani dharayami aham ojasa pushnami cha aushadhi sarva somo bhutva rasatmakaha. So he says that salutations to you who as the moon god serves as the food of both the mains and the gods. Again salutations to the Lord who in the form of water gratifies all embodied beings, who appears as the bodies of all living beings as well as the cosmic body and who takes the form of earth. Then salutations to you who sustain all the three worlds are endowed with the strength of the mind, senses and the body. Who as either supplies a clue to the existence of the objects through the attribute of sound and provides a basis for the conception of inside and outside. So through space only we see everything is accommodated in space and based on certain boundaries. So if there's a pot, so then inside the pot, outside the pot. So inside space, outside space, all that happens. And that very pot also is in space. So all that is made possible. So basically space, air, fire, water, earth, all that also for us is divine. It is not just some five elements born from nature and which are inert. That is the view of the material scientist or of the the other philosophers or the Western view of life of this world. But our culture says even these five elements are appearances of the Lord, so they are divine. Then so all the three worlds, so not only the five elements constituting the gross manifest universe, but all the higher worlds also. So here he says salutations to him who is also the sacred sphere of great splendor, that is heaven, who in the form of worldly activity and activity carried on retirement, leading severally to attainment of the world of mains and the region of gods, and who also in the form of death, which is the fruit of unrighteousness and causes pain. Now what does this mean here? See the shloka here. Nama punyaya lokaya amushmai bhuri varchase. Pravrittaya nivrittaya pitrudevaya karmane namo adharma vipakaya mrityave dukkhadaya cha. So Mrityu will definitely come to all. So Mrityu does not mean that there is some adharma that we have done. That everybody has to drop the body. Whoever has taken the body will drop the body, and as per karma will take another body. That cycle will go on. Then what is the meaning of adharma here? One who goes through pain at the time of death is a result of that pain is a result of some adharma which has been done. Otherwise, one will drop the body effortlessly. That's what the scripture is saying. And which is also the fact, because the punya, when it is done, the mind will be in a very sattvic state, in a higher state of detachment, in a higher state of devotion also. And that mind will drop and go. Now, obviously, the point here is not to think that if somebody went through pain, that person is a dharmic person. No, that can be result of some adharmic karmas or negative karmas one has done in the past at some point in time. Those actions give that result. It's not that the person is completely adharmic. Like even a very healthy person at some point in time may fall sick. Again, one will recover. Same way, we as jivas who are evolving, we must have done somewhere some karma which is negative, and maybe that is giving result now, or that is fructifying now. So at the time of death, that jiva can go through a certain pain. Otherwise, the jiva will just depart. If the jiva has done punya karmas or the punyas are fructifying, then the jiva will depart effortlessly or with no pain. So here it is. That's why he says here that namo adharma vipakaya. Vipaka means fructifying. So if adharma is fructifying, mrityave dukkhadaya cha. For a devotee, even death is Bhagwan only. Sorry. So there is no fear. Like in the Gita also Bhagwan says, Kalosmi loka kshayakrit pravriddha. I am the time which is engaged now in the destruction of the whole, worlds, all worlds. Loka kshayakrit pravriddha. Samahartum iha pravrittaha. And I am engaged in destroying these worlds. So death also is nothing but Bhagwan in another form. Life also is appearance of the Lord in any form, in all the forms that we see around us. So he says, salutations to you who also become death. Then he is the karmaphala data also. Namasta ashisha misha manave karanatmane namo dharmaya brihate krishnaya kuntha medhase. So he says that salutations to you, O Lord, who yield the fruit of all actions and are omniscient. Bhagwan is all knower. So whatever karma phala he gives is the best for us. So the reason why omniscient and karma phala data have been put together in the verse is for us to understand that we can do only our karma, the result comes from the Lord. And Bhagwan gives in his supreme intelligence as the omniscient one. The Lord will give the result for the benefit of the jiva. Bhagwan is a well-wisher of the jiva. There is no one else who is greater well-wisher than Bhagwan. And unfortunately, we curse that supreme well-wisher of ours just because some desire is not fulfilled, or just because we go through some pain or some disappointment, some sorrow, which is a result of our own karma. Bhagwan gave us the buddhi, Bhagwan gave us the choice, he gave us the environments, he gave us the people, he gave us everything. We are to make with our life what we will. He gave knowledge also, he gave everything. Then it is up to us, but we won't take out that responsibility. And just because we don't remember which karma of the past we have done for which we are getting result now, we think that God is sitting up somewhere and then is writing the destinies of people. And then when any difficulty comes, then we curse that Lord, saying, what God, which God? I don't believe in any God. I worshipped him for so many years, and this is what I get in return. Arey, Bhagwan is the karma phala data. He will give what results are due, and he doesn't do partiality in that. If a devotee also eats some stale food, food poisoning will happen to that devotee. Now the devotee can't say, I'm a devotee of Bhagwan, I should not get food poisoning, or somebody else should get food poisoning because they are not devotees. Why should I get food poisoning? That is stupidity. Natural laws will work the same for all, including Bhagwan himself, who undergoes the, voluntarily, of course, in his choice, in his case, he goes through it by his choice, the laws of the universe. But as jivas, we get the result of what we have done. So Bhagwan in his omniscience knows what is the best for us. Then he says, salutations to you in the form of Sri Krishna, who is the supreme virtue personified and is possessed of unobstructed wisdom. See that. Krishnaya kuntha medhase, Purushaya Puranaya Sankhya Yogeshwaraya cha. He is the Supreme Purusha, the most ancient one, as well as the Lord of Sankhya and Yoga. Sankhya here means contemplation on the truth, and Yoga here means all the preparatory methods, which is Karma, Bhakti, Jnana, Raja Yoga, all the four. Now think about it. What does Bhagwan, the Rudra Bhagwan is saying this, Namo Dharmaya Brihate. Krishna is the very embodiment of all dharma. Just like we say Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma, same way here it is Krishna also is the embodiment of dharma only. Again we misunderstand Bhagwan and then we say that, oh, Krishna Bhagwan did so much of manipulation, cunningness and adharma in the Mahabharat war, and so this Mahabharat war Pandavas were able to win, and because he used adharma to win over the Kauravas, finally it is the victory of adharma over dharma. That is all stupidity. One has not understood what the Mahabharata war is about and what was done in that war, why it was done, and how it was on the basis of dharma only. There is no adharma involved in that Mahabharata war from the Pandava side. We have limitation of understanding, then we say that means can justify the goal, and Krishna, spoke very, Krishna Bhagwan did use unfair means for the goal, which is to establish dharma. So sometimes we have to do that. There is no other choice. Nothing like that. Based on dharma only the whole war was fought. And when the rules of the war were completely broken up by people, then there is complete what you call as lawlessness. Then one can't blame only Krishna Bhagwan for it. And more importantly, Bhagwan, as a karma phala data, every jiva got the karma phala of theirs. Nobody can stop that or prevent that. Karna forgot the vidya that was learned by him from Parshuram because of his own karma and the curse of Parshuram. And he was the first one who attacked Abhimanyu. Amongst all the warriors who together plotted and killed Abhimanyu, when the rule of the war is one warrior will fight against only one warrior. There were so many Maharathis who got together and killed Abhimanyu. It is his karma phala that he got. Bhishma got his karma phala. Who told Bhishma to drop the arms in front of Shikhandi? That is his oath. In a war, you can't be so emotional. The enemy is not going to think that, okay, now that is your vow, so I will respect it and I will not fight. The enemy will use that as a strategy and finish. And who had given that solution? Bhishma only had given that solution to the Pandavas. Keep Shikhandi in front of me. Now, same way you analyze each one. Dronacharya also. Who told him to stop fighting? It was his choice. Even if Bhagwan blew the conch at that point in time, so what? Let the conch get finished. Then again he can call Yudhishthira and ask, who died? Elephant or my son? Each of them, if you analyze. So we can't say that Bhagwan Krishna did adharma. He is an embodiment of dharma alone. The responsibility of each warrior's death is their own responsibility. It is their karma. Bhagwan is a karma phala data. Who told Jayadratha to look up when that sun is under eclipse? Nobody told him to look up, but he in his excitement looks up. Arjun finishes him. And it is an eclipse. It is not some disk which has gone up and covered the sun for temporary. It's a proper documented eclipse. 3 eclipses happened that time and during that 18 days. It's a very rare instance. So it's an eclipse. Now, if that basic knowledge is not there and this Jayadratha out of his excitement, he goes and he wants to celebrate. Now Arjuna has to enter the fire because sun has set now. There's a huge difference between sunset and an eclipse. That much has to be known clearly. So anyway, the point is, when Bhagavatam is saying this, we have to understand why Bhagavatam is saying this. It's not because there's some bias. That, because this Bhagavatam and glorifies Krishna and glorifies Vishnu, so they will always say only goody things, but the fact is something else. It is not like that. Shastra speaks very clearly, unbiased, objectively. We have a bias in our head. So we have to introspect that, okay, if Shastra is saying this and my mind is saying this, where is the flaw in my thinking? Can I start identifying that? Which is why satsang is required. Which is why it is very difficult for us to read by ourselves. We have to read, okay, on this, what did Sridhar Swami say, or what did a great commentator say? And then we understand, this is what this means. That's why one has to study the Shastra under a parampara. If one takes the book and reads by oneself, and then one will not understand, and then on the top of the head, one tries to bring some interpretation, and in that also it may be wrong. Then one is doing a great disservice, which is what is happening to so many people. They have no proper understanding of the Shastra, of the purpose of the Shastra, and then the levels in the Shastra and the clarity that Shastra gives. They have not even studied it properly. Some superficial study one has done, and then one starts writing books and creating opinions and influencing the minds of people. So Bhagavatam very clearly says, Namo Dharmaya Brihate. Salutations to the one who is the great personification of Dharma itself. Who is that? Krishnaya Akuntha Medhase. Whose medha is not kuntita, whose medha is not obstructed. Unobstructed wisdom is his true nature. So Purushaya Puranaya Sankhya Yogeshwaraya Cha, and he is the Lord of the 4 yogas. How will that Lord of the 4 yogas do any adharma there? Shaktitraya Sametaya Medushe Ahankritatmane Cheta Akuti Rupaya Namo Vacho Vibhutaye. So he says, as the Rudra, you preside over the ego and are endowed with the 3 potencies, doership, instrumentality, and activity. Obeisance to you who, as Brahma, the creator, are knowledge and activity personified, and from whom proceeds the vast wealth of speech, Vacho Vibhutaye. Now this is all the description of the gunas of Bhagwan, of the karma of Bhagwan. Now comes the roop of Bhagwan. So he says, we pray, bless us who are keen to behold you. Darshanam no didrukshrunam dehi bhagavatarchitam. And this form of yours is which is worshipped by all the great devotees. Please reveal that beautiful form. Rupam priyatamam swanam sarvendriya gunanjanam. And that form is that which will delight the senses. So before we learn to withdraw the senses, we should know to feed the senses and satiate them, satisfy them. So that, and do it in a way in which they don't get more excited, but they get subdued. So in the world, when we enjoy, that will excite our senses, and the senses will become more extrovert with that, and they will deplete the energy of the individual. And also what will happen, these senses will create new bhoga vasanas. Now these senses, they cannot be directly withdrawn in contemplation and meditation and think about formless absolute consciousness. So then what is the alternative? The form of Bhagwan will engage the senses but will not excite the senses. They will ensure that the senses get a vast field to play. So it is not complete withdrawal, nor is it that it is fueling the desire for gross enjoyments and increasing the vasanas. Because the form of Bhagwan will engage the senses and increase sattva guna. Even the offerings that we do to Bhagwan in terms of the agarbatti or the chandan or the flowers or the naivedyam, arti, whatever we offer, the bhav behind that is, may the Lord be pleased. It is not that I want to enjoy. Which is why we say that, naivedya, before you offer to Bhagwan, you should not eat. The reason is the bhoga vritti should not be there in us. The Ishwar Arpan bhav, that is the most important aspect in that, and that bhav, if we have, then we can extend that for all other enjoyments in the world also. They will not then create new vasanas in us or bhoga vrittis in us. So that's why the form is very, very important. Unfortunately, today people have no clarity about that, and then they think form worship is primitive. It is, super, something that is very backward, and we will only do the formless, and we will only focus on the breath, or we will worship nature. That is confusion, because one has not understood the mechanism of the senses. The same people who are talking about formless and nameless and attributeless will have absolutely no control over the senses. Victims of the senses, many of them will be, who will just have no control over the food that they eat, the things that they see, the music that they hear, all the other 10 senses. No control. In the Gita, Bhagwan gives that as the first quality of somebody who wants to worship the formless. Sanniyamya indriya gramam sarvatra. To withdraw the senses from all directions, from all the objects. That control of the senses must be there. The mind must not have craving. Control of the senses does not mean close the eyes, close the ears, close the mouth. That also many people don't have. In meditation, one is seeking some smell and some candle and some fragrance and some flowers and some light, and what type of meditation is that? Sanniyamya indriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhaya. Then be equanimous at all times. Sarva bhuta hite rataha. Those who are selflessly engaging in service of all the beings, te prapnuvanti mameva. They will attain me. In the 12th chapter he says. And if one has deep body identification, formless is not possible. So that's the importance of the form. And now Shivji himself is telling to these Prachetas the glory of the form of Bhagwan and how to meditate on that form. He is teaching them. So he says, you please reveal. Shivji is telling Bhagwan, he is praying to Lord Hari, that please reveal your beautiful form, the most beloved of your votaries, which delights all the senses by its numerous excellences. It is cerulean as a charming rain cloud and the conglomeration of all elegance. Now this comes the description of the form. So obviously, form of Bhagwan Vishnu has Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, and the eyes are resembling the petals in the lotus, in the heart of a lotus. Captivating eyebrows, shapely nose, lovely teeth, ravishing cheeks, ears exactly corresponding with each other and serving as ornaments. The outer corners of eyes smiling as it were with affection. Bhagwan is having flowers around his chest. There's a pitambar that he has worn. Then there are diamonds, bracelets, pearl necklace, anklets, girdle, and carries about its shoulders resembling those of a lion. The luster of the earrings and the necklace, the Kaustuba gem lending charm to the neck. Then there is a Srivatsa on his chest. Now his stomach has 3 packs, and as he breathes, it keeps moving up and down. Then the feet are shining as the petals of an autumnal lotus and driving away the darkness of our heart by the splendor of their nails. So this is the full form of Bhagwan. So he says, reveal to us that form as your very essence that has dispelled the fear of that has dispelled the fear, O preceptor, since you are the guide of souls wallowing in ignorance. So this is the form. Now form will bring single pointedness, form will bring relationship, form will bring emotion, devotion, very many things the form will bring, and the most important is these forms the devotee will have darshan. There is no doubt. These are not some human created forms for the sake of concentration of the mind. These are forms in which the Lord exists, even whether we exist or not. Form of Bhagwan continues. That alone is real. This is not real. We think this is real and Bhagwan's form is unreal. That is Maya. Makes the unreal appear as a real, real appear as unreal. So many times we have seen it. We are in just the 4th canto. 12 cantos are there totally. In every canto, almost there is one portion which will describe, at least till now we have seen, one portion which will describe the form of Bhagwan. There is no canto in which form of Bhagwan is not there. And majority of us need the form. So just like here the example is given of the form of Bhagwan Hari, each of us have to think what is the form of my Ishtadevata, or it may be Kula Devata, whichever one you have, or they both can be one and the same. And that one form one has to meditate, single pointedness, every single day. Focus on that form from the head to the toes, and then focus on any specific part of the form of the Lord. And that way, one builds the bond. So here he says, please Bhagwan, you reveal this form to us. Then he says, Etad Rupam Anudhyayam Atma Shuddhim Abhipsatam Yad Bhakti Yogo Abhayadaha Swadharmamanu Tishthatam. Very important. Why this form is important, he says now, you see. Etad Rupam Anudhyayam. This form has to be continuously meditated upon. Anudhyayam. Anu means repeatedly, continuously. For what? Atma Shuddhim Abhipsatam. First reason, if one wants to purify the mind, one must meditate on the form. So those who are desirous of purifying the mind, they must continuously meditate on the form. 1. 2. Yad Bhakti Yoga Abhayadaha. It will give bhakti and it will give fearlessness. People think those who are devotees are timid, weak people, very easy to get, to take them for granted, to exploit them, to cheat them. That is because one is not alert, that one is tamasic. A true bhakta cannot be exploited. A true bhakta is fearless. A true bhakta has no insecurity. A true bhakta has a lot of detachment. People can exploit us because of our attachments. The world pulls us down because of our attachments. Bhakta doesn't have attachments. There's no chink in his armor or her armor. There's no chink. Where is the question of world attacking and affecting that devotee? So bhakti makes that person strong. Our bhakti must be like that. Abhayada, he says. You see, bhakti yogo abhayadaha. Da is used for bhakti yoga also and abhaya also. Then swadharmam anutishtatam. Even for those who are following the path of karma yoga and engaging in performance of their duties as swadharma, even for them this form is important, because then the bhav comes that I'm doing it for Bhagwan who is manifest in this form. Think about it. How will I do karma yoga towards something which is absolute, infinite consciousness? The feeling only doesn't come. That's why he says swadharma manutishtatam. Bhavan bhaktimata labhyo durlabha sarvadehinam swarajyasyapyabhimata ekantenatma vid gatihi. So he says that even Brahmaji seeks this form. Remember, Brahmaji was confused in the beginning. He did not know how to proceed with creation. Then he heard tapa, tapa. So Brahmaji did austerity, and then Vishnu Bhagwan manifested and gave him the Chatushloki Bhagavat, which is sought after even by Brahma, and the ultimate goal of those who are exclusively devoted to self-realization. Darshana Bhagwan will lead to self-realization, there is no doubt. The absolute ultimate realization will be of that Lord as my own true self, there is no doubt. But that does not mean that Bhagwan does not exist in the form. That is a misunderstanding of people who have not understood Vedanta properly. So here he says that goal of those who are exclusively devoted to self-realization. In that, self-realization can also mean from Dvaita standpoint going to the abode of Bhagavan, being his servant at all times, or being a part of the whole. That is possible, no doubt. But here he says swarajyasya pi abhimata. That swarajya is self-realization, which is the Atma. So he says, even those who are seeking that self-realization, this is the goal for them. And you are attainable by him who is full of devotion and are difficult to access to other mortals. So what makes it easy to have darshan of Bhagwan is bhakti. Then he says, having propitiated through exclusive devotion, hardly attainable even by the virtuous, you who cannot be easily propitiated, who will seek anything other than the soles of your feet. Meaning, those who surrender to the divine feet of the Lord, for them this becomes very easy, for others it is very difficult. Meaning, complete surrender has to happen. Though destroying the universe, even with his brows contracted as a token of his majesty and energy, death does not recognize the soul who has taken shelter under those feet as subject to his authority. It is said the whole creation is like the Bhrikuti Vilas of Bhagwan. Bhrikuti Vilas means the play of the eyebrows. How effortlessly we just lift the eyebrows and bring it down. Like that, the creation manifests and gets destroyed just like the Bhrikuti Vilas of that Supreme Lord. The whole universe we saw, Bhagwan only becomes death and destroys the whole universe. And then here specifically it is said, death will not scare a person who has taken refuge of the Lord. See here when we say death does not recognize the soul, it does not mean that that soul will not die. But there is no fear. Why? Because I am at the feet of Bhagwan. He knows what is the best. Body has to be dropped, one will drop. No fear. No anxiety. Oh, what will happen after death? Who will be there with me? Nothing. Bhagwan is there. Now also Bhagwan will be there afterwards also. And of course, if that person has attained oneness, then so there's no question of any fear. He says, I'm not prepared to equate the enjoyments of heaven nor even freedom from rebirth, much less the blessing sought by mortals. Meaning, compared to bhakti, even all this is nothing. Heaven, freedom from cycle of birth and death, and all this power, pleasure, popularity, prestige in this world. He says, none of that I am prepared to equate. Meaning nothing comes anywhere close to that surrender to Bhagwan and devotion to the Lord. So he says, may we enjoy the company of those whose sins have been washed away by immersing their souls in listening to your glories, and their body in the Ganga flowing from your feet. Meaning, may we have company of such bhaktas, such sadhakas. And he says, may this be the boon to us. The contemplative soul whose mind is neither distracted by external objects nor loses itself in a spell of drowsiness. See, this is what happens to us now, vikshepa and then sleep. So now see here, that's what he says. Na yasya chittam bahirartha vibhramam. One whose mind is not wandering, tempted by external objects. Tamo guhayam cha, or feeling drowsy and sleepy. Why these two are not happening? Cha vishuddham avishat. Because the mind has been purified. Yad bhakti yoganugrahitam anjasa munihi vichaste nanu tatra te gatim. So this person has attained this state by the sadhanas of devotion. And so he says that such devotion if we get, then easily and surely one succeeds in realizing your true nature at this stage. See, the power of bhakti is this. It will prevent the vikshepa, it will prevent the sleep, both drowsiness, sleep, wandering of the mind. All these challenges come to us in meditation. Bhakti will remove all this, and the company of such bhaktas will strengthen our bhakti and remove all these obstacles to know the self. And today people don't want to talk about bhakti also. The word bhakta only has become like a label, an unfortunate kind of an addressing and connecting it to politics and some party and all that, and the bhakta and this bhakta and that bhakta. That is so unfortunate. The word bhakta is a very exalted word, and from that exalted state one has brought it down to such ridiculousness. So the point here is this, that bhakti has that great power. And so if our meditation, contemplation, whatever practice we are doing, we have to introspect and find out what is the component of bhakti in the practice that I am doing. And if there is no component of bhakti in that, one should introspect and, if required, change that practice to something else where bhakti can be invoked. Otherwise, the mind will not focus. And more than focus, the purity of mind will not happen. Surrender will not happen. Realization cannot happen without these. So now that's where he says, you are the same Brahma in whom is manifested this universe and who shines through the universe, who is supreme effulgence and is all pervading like ether. So that way he goes on to explain, you are absolute, you who evolve this universe, sustain it and dissolve it as though it were real. But it is not real, it is your power of Maya because of which all this is happening. Then even those who are studying the Veda and the Tantra, etc., are able to be well versed because of you, because of the devotion to you. Who are devoted as they are to the faith of action and imbued with faith, duly adore for perfection through a network of rituals this very embodied form of yours, which is hinted by 5 gross elements, the Indriyas and the mind. So even the rituals one is able to do, and through that some punya, and through that some whatever higher states, all that is happening because of you. You are the one primeval person whose energy in the form of Maya lies dormant before creation. Then during creation it is Maya which will manifest as the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, becomes differentiated, and all the things subsequently, Mahatattva and then the Panchama Bhutas and all the bodies, subtle bodies, gross bodies, objects, everything is created. Meaning you are the source of all. And it is you only who are appearing as the 4 types of jivas also. The jivas which are born of sweat, moisture, the jivas which are born of the womb, the jivas which sprout from the soil, and jivas were born from the egg. Sondaja, Svedaja, Jarayuja, Udbhija, all the 4. It says you only have become all the 4 types of jivas. And so it is therefore that they call that ray of your being residing in the body as the Purusha or the Jiva, which because of the play of Maya and ignorance thinks of itself as the finite, but it is actually the infinite. So finally he concludes here by saying that your nature can only be inferred, it cannot be directly perceived. Possessed of the most tremendous velocity and irresistible like a hurricane, it is you who destroy the worlds. Now comes a very powerful analogy. He says, alert as the serpent that grabs a rat, licking the ends of its lips through hunger, you as death suddenly overtake the jiva. Like how this serpent grabs the rat. In that way, Bhagwan as though devours the jiva, who is utterly careless about his goal, engrossed as he is in the thought of the worldly objects, and being totally given up to the pleasure of senses, is seized with inordinate greed. This jiva, because of greed, because of sense enjoyment, because of extrovertedness, becomes careless, has forgotten the purpose of human life and the very goal of realization. In that state, when one is like, a rat is not even aware that snake is nearby and suddenly gets trapped and killed. We are living like that. Suddenly death comes and takes us away. In terms of the body, it's gone, finished. When the next human body comes, when sadhana will happen, no idea, it is so uncertain. So he says this, that you are the one who takes away this jiva, who is ignorant like this, and who regards pleasure as the goal. So what wise man who regard his body as wearing away through neglect of you would abandon your lotus feet? So a wise person will not shy away from bhakti. That is important aspect to understand, that having got a human body, bhakti is the thing which will liberate us. And that alone, that completely we put aside. And we say, no, I am a jnana margi, I don't believe in bhakti and all that. What jnana marga it is which does not have bhakti? Ishwar bhakti is there, Guru bhakti is there. How can there be no bhakti in jnana marga? So that's why he says here that this Wise person will not abandon your lotus feet, which our ancestor Brahma had adored. Brahmaji himself adored the lotus feet of Bhagwan. Why? Because Brahmaji didn't want to get stuck in bondage. He had adored it through fear of bondage in the shape of worldly existence, and which even 14 Manus, meaning all our ancestors, right from Brahmaji onwards to Manu, all of them from Swayambhu Manu onwards have worshipped with unquestioning faith. See, it is written without reasoning, but it is not, the point is not reasoning. The point is without doubting. So with unquestioning faith, they have worshipped the feet of the Lord. The whole universe is scared of Rudra, but what does Rudra Bhagwan say? You are the only fearless resort. People take your refuge, then even me as death cannot affect them. Then he says that go on repeating this hymn. So with this he concludes the stuti. Rudra stuti is over here. Now Rudra Bhagwan is telling the Prachetas that you keep repeating the hymns with the purest of motives, discharging your duties with mind set on the Lord, and worship the Lord in your own heart as well as in all the beings, extolling and meditating on him again and again. This hymn is called as Yoga Desha. See the verse number 71. Idamaha Purasmakam Bhagavan Vishwasritpatihi Bhagavan Bhagwadina Matmajanam Sisrikshu Sam Sisrikshatam. That is 72. 71 is before. Yoga Deshamupasadya Dharayanto Munivrataha Samahita Dhiya Sarva Etad Abhyasatadritaha. So this is called Yoga Desha. This whole stuti is called Yoga Desha. He says, Upasadya, having heard this, you grasp this. Dharayanto Munivrataha. You are munis who will stick to their vrata of propitiating the Lord and pleasing him. So he says, you go on repeating this with purest of motives. Then, having received this Yoga Desha, retaining it in your memory, repeat it reverentially, all of you with a concentrated mind, observing the vow of hermits, meaning living in brahmacharya, tapasya, all that. Intent on multiplying his progeny, it was the glorious Brahma who taught it at the dawn of creation to us. His mind-born sons, Bhrigu and others, all of whom were keen to push the creation forward. So this stuti was given by Brahmaji in the beginning of the creation to all of them, all his mind-born children, and also Rudra Bhagwan must have heard it. So those who want children, for them this stuti will be helpful. In general also this stuti, as you will see, the Falashruti comes now, that whatever one desires, one worships Bhagwan with this kind of a bhav and with this kind of surrender, one will be blessed with that. Here specifically it is because they were told to produce more children. Now, enjoined to proceed with the task of procreation, we, lords of created beings, all evolved various species of living beings, having got rid of ignorance through this very hymn. So he says that Brahmaji gave this knowledge, and reflecting on it, their ignorance went, and then that is how they brought forth the children. Very interesting it is. If the parent becomes illumined, meaning enlightened, then the child comes into the world. What a beautiful way it will be to bring up the child also, and the parent is not having any insecurities and fears and worries and all that. So here he says that all these Manus and all of them, they also heard this, they applied this. Having got rid of ignorance, then they brought forth these children. Even now, he comes back to the present moment, he says, even now a man devoted to Lord Vasudeva and ever repeating it with an attentive and absorbed mind attains blessedness before long. Of all the blessings here, spiritual enlightenment leading to final beatitude is the highest. Shreyasam iha sarvesham jnanam nishreyasam param. Of all the blessings, this jnanam, spiritual knowledge, is the best. Sukham tarati dushparam jnane naur vyasanarnavam. So what will happen with this? He who sails in the bark of wisdom easily crosses the ocean of misery, which is very difficult to cross. Imbued with reverence, he who dwells upon this hymn in praise of the Lord will be able to propitiate Sri Hari, who is so difficult to please. A man who is steady of mind obtains whatever he desires from that Lord, the sole repository of all blessings. When he is celebrated through this hymn sung by me and is highly pleased thereby, Bhagwan will be highly propitiated. Highly pleased when he is propitiated by this hymn. How to do it? He says, rising before daybreak and full of faith, any mortal who listens to or recites it with joined palms is freed from all shackles of karma. Repeating with a concentrated mind this hymn in praise of the Supreme Purusha, sung by me, practice austerities, thereby you will attain in the long run the object sought by you. So this way, Prachetas are blessed by Lord Shiva. Now you see, this is Moksha Purushartha, no? So Prachetas got the knowledge from Lord Shiva. What happens to the father? That we will see. Naradji comes to his life. Prachetas, of course, they will sing the glory of Bhagwan, and that we will see few further also. But his father also gets mukti. Naradji comes at that time. Father is still doing rituals and all that. That we take up in our next class. Any questions? Okay, so let's do the arati. It is not only verse 71 for progeny. This whole hymn, this entire hymn, Rudra Vacha, from there it starts. That hymn of Lord Vishnu has to be sung for the progeny or for any desire fulfillment. In this specific context, it is progeny.
मंगल आरती प्रिया प्रीतम की, मंगल प्रीति रीति धूम की, मंगल कांति हसनी दसलन की, मंगल मुरली दीना धुन की, मंगल आरती। मंगल बनिक त्रिभंगी हरि की, मंगल सेवा सब सहचर की, मंगल सिर चंद्रिका मुकुट की, मंगल छवि नयन में अटकी, मंगल आरती। पभी अंग अंग की, मंगल गौर श्याम रंग की, मंगल अति कटि पियरे पट की, मंगल चितमयी नागर नट की, मंगल आरती। मंगल शोभा कमल नयन की, मंगल माधुरी मृदुल पैन की, मंगल वृंदावन मद अटकी, मंगल क्रीडन जमुना तट की, मंगल आरती। मंगल मंगल चरण अरुण तरुवन की, मंगल करणी भगति हरिजन की, मंगल जुगल प्रिया बावन की, मंगल श्री राधा जीवन की, मंगल आरती प्रिया प्रीतम की, मंगल प्रीति रीति डोल की, मंगल आरती मंगल आरती। राधावर कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय। ओम न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चंद्र तारकम, नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतोऽयम् अग्निः, तमेव भान्तमनुभाति सर्वं, तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की।
ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।